show has time. Looks for Deutsch. Deutsch at the one into the end zone.
Comes on to serve. Dug out by Bishop. This to the middle and slamming one home.
And free ball to the crossover. Eilertson will get the pass for Holly. Set up left side. Rusted down with the kill. He'll play action now. Look to pass over the middle. It's intercepted by Cole Hebel. Intercepted by Hebel, and he brings it back.
Set it up, Boston left side. Big kill blocked at the net. Kept alive by the Greyhounds.
Fetting's got room, and here's Bo Fetting. Fetting's still on his feet. Fetting's gone. Both.
The Your Live Event Coaches Show is presented by the Hillsborough Economic Development Committee.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hillsborough EDC Coaches Show on YourLiveEvent.com. I'm Joe Lancello, and we'll be talking some high school football with Tony Soderberg of Dilworth, Glendon Felton, and Bryan Strand of Barnesville. Both their teams will be playing for Minnesota State Championships later this week. We'll also hear from Trevor Stewart from Ada Bora boys basketball. We'll talk to a couple of girls basketball coaches, Nathan Hoots of Maple River and Barb Sweet of Lisbon. And Joel Morgan had a chance to talk with Lisbon girls wrestling coach Jacob Revier. All that coming up within this half hour. We'll start things with talking about football. We've got two Prep Bowl teams from the area taking part in the Prep Bowl. Bryan Strand of Barnesville will be playing for the Class AA championship. And Tony Soderberg of Dilworth, Glendon Felton, his Rebels looking to put a perfect season on the line as they take on New London Spicer for the Class AAA championship. Let's start first with Tony Soderberg and DGF. Welcome back to the Hillsborough EDC Coaches Show on YourLiveEvent.com. Tony Soderberg, the coach of the Dilworth, Glendon Felton Rebels, joins us now. And DGF getting ready to play for a state championship Saturday against New London Spicer. Tony, first of all, Jordan Summers left the semifinal game with an injury. How is he doing?
I'm not going to completely comment on that, but he'll be playing Saturday. Okay.
And there was some other good news about Jordan. He's one of the 10 finalists for Mr. Football in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's pretty special recognition right there to be one of the top 10 players in the state of Minnesota through all classes. So, right. Yeah, he's definitely had a great season, statistically playing both sides of the ball. He's a tremendous football player and definitely deserves the recognition. I think maybe that semifinal game where there's some people got to see him play helped him out quite a bit because he had a tremendous game there. But it's pretty cool for him to be recognized like that.
And that semifinal, as you say, against Fairmont, he ran for 168 yards and a touchdown.
Yep.
And that was the score that got you on the board, got you going. This game was even at halftime, but you had a nice drive in the third quarter going into the early part of the fourth that set you up for a field goal that put you ahead to stay.
Yeah, that was a huge kick by a sophomore kicker that he did miss the next extra point, but he hadn't missed a kick in, what was it, about 6 games, but they're all extra points. So that was actually our first field goal attempt of the year. And he put it through and got us up by 3. And, Fairmont, they drove the ball down the field, but they had a turnover, and we were able to pick that ball up. And then we burned about 5 minutes off the clock before Wally got in on that touchdown, and that got us up by 2 scores, which is a situation we're not used to lately in these playoffs. So definitely,
Wally nice. Filling in at the tailback spot after Jordan Summers had left with an injury.
Yep.
And that was an amazing thing about that game is how well you guys controlled the football. You had, I think, 13 minutes longer than Fairmont, was it?
Yeah, well, and it's a contrast of styles too. We're more of a running team with a little bit of play action. They like to throw the ball and then run just to keep you honest. We kind of shut their running game down early. They did have success throwing the ball because that's what they do, but if we're getting 4 yards of play and it's a 40-second before you have to snap the ball, and you get a couple first downs, you can take about 5-6 minutes off the clock pretty quickly, especially if you're ahead. And that's kind of what our MO was once we were up. But yeah, no, that's kind of the way we're designed and built. And, if we want to call a play quicker and snap it with 25 seconds left on the play clock, we can. But when you're up, it sure is nice to have that clock start running down.
And a big thing was penalties. Not that you guys had any of them, but it seemed like Fairmont had them at the worst possible time. There was one, I think, before a play that led to an interception by you guys. And let me just look here on the fourth quarter sheet. Oh, yeah, there was their defense was offside, and that gave you a first down late in the game, or midway through the game.
Oh, yeah, and then there you get another 3 sets of downs and burning 40 seconds of clock. So, getting them to jump off sides was big. And, those are little things. Turnovers are the big ones that determine the game. But, definitely getting a couple timely penalties is always going to be helpful for the other team. And so we were able to get a couple of those and take advantage of them and, get that clock to zero, because it doesn't matter what the score is until the game's over. So,
and now it's New London Spicer for the championship. Did you hang around much to see that semifinal game of theirs with Watertown Mayor?
I did not, but I was able to watch it later, and actually the kids were able to watch it later. That's what we did for one of the days last week, because we have the 2-day extension, or 2 weeks before our game because of the Vikings game. But so
right.
We got to watch it. The coaches stayed and watched it live, but we had to get on the bus and get out of there because U.S. Bank Stadium is a little bit more high security than some other places. So wasn't able to watch it, but we watched it later. And, they're kind of similar in style. They like to run the football. When things get tough for them, that's what they do. They got a couple athletes. Number 81, he's their big home run hitter on offense. And, on defense, they play solid physical football. So it should be a pretty entertaining game.
I take it the extra week in preparation is certainly an asset for you, not only for preparing for the game, but also getting guys who may be a little bit banged up healthy.
Yeah, no, every day counts and helps in that category for sure. We got a lot of kids that go both ways, so it's going to be interesting with the championship game. They give you like 3 TV timeouts a quarter, so we're going to get some extra breaks there, and so we should be well rested and shouldn't be that tired during the game.
Okay, what will be the important things for the Rebels to do on Saturday to come home with a state championship trophy?
The same thing that we preach every Friday night is we can't turn the football over. On defense, we got to line up correctly and tackle and keep everything in front of us. And then we got to be physical. That is the 3 things that we try to do every game, whether it's week 1, week 8, state championship game. Those are what we believe determines, who wins and who loses most of the time in a football game.
And this is a little unusual situation too, because it's the last game you're going to be playing this season.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a surreal situation. The head football coach's worst day is the day they don't get to play anymore. And kids are done and seniors are crying, and I hate that day. But we got to the final game, so win or lose, it's going to be it's going to be happy, but at the same time it's going to be pretty sad, because we spent the last 4 months with these kids and watched them grow and get better and fight and compete, and then all of a sudden they're going to go off in their separate ways, and it's going to be an interesting scenario. But hey, glad to be there, tell you that.
Hopefully the only tears on the DGF sideline Saturday will be tears of joy. Tony Soderberg, thanks very much. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Hillsborough Economic Development Committee supports businesses in the Hillsborough community in the form of loans and grants. Experience Hillsborough. There's more at 104.
Welcome back to the Hillsborough EDC Coaches Show on YourLiveEvent.com. Bryan Strand, the coach of the Barnesville Trojans, joins us now. Barnesville a couple of days away from playing for a state championship as they take on Chatfield for the Class AA Minnesota title. Bryan, you guys beat Jackson County Central in the semis. Talk a little bit about that game.
No, I felt we came out and played really well. I felt that our kids were well prepared and executed the game plan pretty well. I mean, and we gave up one touchdown defensively, and they returned a kick for a touchdown. So defensively, we've been playing pretty solid, and it continued through last week.
And John Roller with a solid game for you, 140 yards on the ground and a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, he's been solid the entire year. I want to say he's sitting at about 950 yards right now, so he's approaching that 1,000-yard mark for the season. But that's only possible through great offensive line blocking and again, the other backs that are back there too. We're not exclusively behind one person there. It's four backs all working together.
Oh, sure. Braden Bredman for sure. Zach Bredman completed a couple of passes. One, you guys weren't trying to throw that much, but that was a 77-yard touchdown. That was a really big play.
Yeah, he had 105 yards passing and he rushed for 98 yards. By far was his best game. But, in the backfield there, I want to say one back's just about 500 yards. Braden Bredman's about 600. John's about 950. Zach's around 400. So it's they complement each other well. But again, we've been throwing more now with the playoffs just because everyone's trying to stack the box on us. So we've been trying to throw a little bit more, and Zachary has just continued to get better and better.
Okay. And there was a big play early on too when they got the ball in your territory, or you had the ball in your territory and fumbled it. Jackson County Central recovered, but you held them to a 4-and-out.
Yes. Yep. No. Defensively, like I said, we've been playing on the year itself. We've only given up 700 yards on the ground through 12 games. So it's about 50 to 60 yards a game on average. So even if we do make a mistake, I feel like we're good enough out there to stop teams from scoring.
Now you've had an extra week to get ready for this title game against Chatfield. That's maybe, I don't know if that's thrown you off any at all in game preparation or if it's been an advantage to having guys get healthy.
We had one kid that left the semifinal game with a slight concussion. So he's been able to go through the protocol and get back for the game. We haven't really been banged up the whole year. We have so few guys that play both sides of the ball. Most nights it's only 2 or 3 guys that have to play OND. So the chance of them getting hurt from fatigue or just injuries drops considerably. So we've remained healthy.
Like you say, or have said before, 45 juniors and seniors.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now you take on a Chatfield team that beats Eden Valley Watkins in the other semifinal. What have you been able to learn about Chatfield?
We played them last year in the semifinals. We had a 2-score lead late in that game, probably the late third quarter. And through injuries and other reasons, we took the ball away from them, and then we turned it over on a fumble in the exact same play. There's just a few things that happened last year against them, but we felt we played with them. I actually felt we were probably the better team. We just made too many costly mistakes down the stretch. We only had 5 seniors or 7 seniors last year, so I think we returned a lot of kids that wanted to get back here. So, I think they learned from mistakes from last year, and they're very focused.
And I'm sure the incentive in being able to play at US Bank Stadium for a second time this season comes into play too.
It does. No.
And what's the atmosphere been in the school and in Barnesville itself over the last week and a half with you guys making it to the championship game?
Honestly, I can't say it's felt any different. We had Thanksgiving last week, so it was a short week, and we took it really late in practice-wise. Last week, we just tried to get healthy. And on Friday, when there wasn't school, we traveled up to UND to practice. Last night we practiced at Moorhead High School, and tonight we go back to UND, which is about an hour and a half away. But we've been able to get really good, valuable practices. We also, I want to say, basically from the section finals week on, we practice twice a day on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So we've continued that last week and this week. And, I think our kids are, again, dialed in. They know what they're supposed to do, and they just have to go out there and do it.
All right. We shall see Barnesville against Chatfield, the Class AA football championship in Minnesota. That'll be Friday afternoon. Bryan Strand, thank you so much, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
And we'll continue with the Hillsboro EDC Coaches Show on yourliveevent.com right after this.
Take a good look at Hillsboro. It's conveniently located between Fargo and Grand Forks. Hillsboro is a growing community with solid local schools with high graduation rates. There's an industrial park ready to host a new business. And there's Woodland Park with activities all year round. The Hillsboro Economic Development Corporation asks you to take a good look at Hillsboro when you're thinking about a place to put down roots and grow. For more information, contact the Hillsboro Economic Development Corporation at growhillsboroND.com.
Lee Brothers Sales, Highway 9 in Ada, invites you to order your new Buick and Chevrolet vehicles. From the Silverado, Trailblazers, Traverse, and Enclave, Lee Brothers is your authorized Chevrolet and Buick dealer, providing sales and a service to the area since 1975. For ordering your vehicles, talk with Mitch, Smurf, or Jay. Trust the experts who know your vehicles best and take advantage of great Chevy certified service offers today. Lee Brothers Sales, Highway 9, Ada, 218-784-2000.
This is Chris from RDK Enterprises, your local precision planting dealer. Manage what you can to overcome what you cannot. Farming is all about preparing your operation to be successful when given an opportunity. Invest a few minutes and bring in your seed meters to be reconditioned and calibrated. We have some room, so give us a call and we can help you overcome those simple obstacles. RDK Enterprises, 636-2119, 636-2119, or planterdoc.com.
We'll switch gears here on the Hillsboro EDC Coaches Show and talk high school basketball with the boys' season getting underway in Minnesota, the girls' season getting underway in both North Dakota and Minnesota right now. Jake Berkmeyer had a chance to talk with Trevor Stewart of the Ada-Barb West Cougar boys basketball team, and Chase Miller talked with Nathan Hoots, the coach of the Maple River girls basketball team.
Preseason previews with R&J Sports and yourliveevent.com as we welcome in the head coach of Ada-Barb West boys basketball, Trevor Stewart, with us. And Coach, good to be back with you for another year. I believe 22 years for you at the helm there. So how excited are we for this year coming in with a young but experienced group?
Yeah, very excited. It's been a good 2 years kind of building with a lot of this core that's kind of played an important role, and certainly taken some lumps along the way, and growing up a little bit, gotten a little physical, a little stronger. Definitely have some driver's license now on the roster, so that made life a little easier this summer. So I know the guys are very excited to get into the arenas, into the gyms, and start smelling the popcorn and playing some games for real.
Yeah, it'll be coming up very soon, Friday, with that home doubleheader against Holly to start things off. But let's look at the preseason practices. First of all, just numbers-wise, let's see where you're at and how that divvies out amongst the grades.
Well, we got a couple of seniors, Ryan and Gannon, so we're really thin on the very, very top. But after that, we have 9 juniors, 7 sophomores, and right around 15 freshmen. We're not totally locked in on them, but we have about 32 kids in the program. Like I said, lots in that freshman class, a ton of them that are eager to learn and eager to experience a little bit of high school basketball as well. So a little thin on top, but we got 2 excellent seniors, great young men, good leaders for us, guys that are going to be positive role models and lead us with their examples and positivity more than some of that negativity that sometimes comes with it. And then, like I said, we've got a good, solid group of juniors and sophomores to go along with it. So very excited to have this thing get going on Friday.
Yeah, it's not common where you got guys that are going into their third year starting that are only juniors or sophomores. And so bringing that back, how has that helped throughout the summer process, throughout the first few preseason practices, of just being able to to get into your stuff?
It's definitely made things a little bit quicker for sure. We are, very, very far along as where we normally would be. I guess after 1 week of practice, that's for sure. We're able to mix in quite a bit of stuff, recall quite a bit of stuff from last year or the summer or whatever, and what have you. And I think just that experience of playing together. And, like you said, a big part of the core is started for 2 years and still has 2 years left. So a good time still to come, but definitely the preseason practices this first week, we've taken off. And, there was a day or two in there, Jake, where it still looked like football guys trying to run around, dribble basketball. No doubt we still certainly had that, but we definitely were able to put in some stuff and get some things figured out fairly quickly.
For those guys coming back, are they stepping into similar roles, or are they having to adjust that now because of other changes or however it works out along the roster?
Well, I'm just hoping their roles, just grow a little bit in terms of being complete basketball players. Like I said, I think, one of the things we need to really, really focus on is being better defensively. And a big part of that, I think, is just the physical moments that happen in the game, just being a willing participant to mix it up. And, I wouldn't call us a soft team by any stretch, but yet at times we played soft. We were young, and I don't know if necessarily freshmen and sophomores are going to mix it up with juniors and seniors all the time. So just what we noticed this summer, what we noticed early this year so far is we are more physical, and not necessarily the obvious stuff like blocking out and taking charges, but the little things in terms of screening and sealing and playing through contact. One of the things is we lost our playoff game last year and we were outshot at the free throw line 25-2. And that's just a sign of a team that doesn't want to play through contact sometimes. And, we got to get to the free throw line. We got to, initiate some of that contact and get there. And, I think we're just kind of our role in terms of them growing up. I think that just being more physical, a little stronger, a little more sure of themselves. I'm hoping that takes off and really, really makes us a tough team to beat.
You look at some of those other teams in the section, in the conference, 8A is a tough section, Pine Prairie Conference, like you said, that physical basketball. What's the outlook from your standpoint as you look at some of the other teams you're going against?
Well, I think you nailed it. I think, Section 8A is going to be a very talented section. I think there's a lot of really, really good teams. So it's not going to be an easy road for anyone. No doubt about it. And I think, if Boston's got a lot of kids kind of similar boat that we've had that's got a lot of experience and certainly play well together. And, a lot of people I think would point to them and maybe say this would be their chance and their year, and rightfully so. And Cass Lake Bena's always got a case to, they're talented. They got some young guys that are growing a year and they're going to be very good. And then you got the usual suspects of Fertles and Monoman Wabbins, and on the other side, of course, Sacred Heart and Warren. And so I think you better be ready to come every night. And obviously, once March comes, I think we're in for kind of a fun tournament. No matter what the matchup is, should be a couple good teams. And just looking forward to getting it going and seeing how it plays out.
Talk about the experience on the court. We got some experience on the bench too with that coaching staff back again with you for another year.
Right. Aaron's with us again for, I don't even know how many years. It's been a long time, and maybe not all of my 22, but most of them for sure. And Nate's back again for about whatever it is, 4th or 5th year as well. And Kenley every once in a while makes his presence still known as well. So they're not only great coaches. I mean, they really are. They do a lot of the heavy lifting. They do a lot of the stuff in practice, and we really work well together, but they're also great people and good friends. So very fortunate that way to spend my time with those guys.
Well, hey, we'll let you get to practice in just a second. Just real quick, talk about that Friday game. What's the biggest thing you want to see from your team coming out, starting the year on your home court in that first game?
Well, like I said, I think just some of those physical things, obviously, defensively being better position as well. But, like checking bodies and taking charges and winning some of those physical matchups, I think are going to be very, very important. And then, of course, nowadays basketball, you really got to scramble to that 3-point line. Not only do you got to know how to rotate and defend together, but, you better cover that 3-point line. And Holly's got the type of kids that can make you pay if you don't. So it'll be a real test for us to see how far we've come and see another year of the system defensively and offensively. If we can play together, play with some pace and control ourselves when we need to control ourselves. It sounds like an interview answer sometimes, but we definitely have a lot of skill. And at times we get going so fast and try to make so many difficult plays that it actually becomes a problem I'm sure everybody like to have. But it's one of those things we just got to slow down and play together on the offensive end and just to keep improving defensively. It starts with Holly, and let's just see those little steps towards those kind of things.
All right. Well, looking forward to seeing the guys go and play, get some more interview answers throughout the year as well, too. And good to chat with you again. We'll look forward to seeing you here on Friday night.
Hey, Jake, we look forward to it. Thanks, man.
Trevor Stewart, head coach, Adebor West boys basketball. Join us preseason previews with R&J Sports.
Live, work, and play here in Hillsboro, North Dakota. The Hillsboro Economic Development Committee can assist you with information and support for business and housing. Experience Hillsboro. More at 104.
Maple River girls basketball head coach Nathan Hoots joining us now. And Nathan, always a busy time of the year here once you get done with Thanksgiving and you get ready for girls basketball. You've already had a handful of practices and now you're getting into the game portion of your season here. But first and foremost, let's just recap some of the players that are coming back. 2 seniors. You have Chloe Wetch and Ashton Hanig here, and it's the second year of this co-op as well, Hoots. So let's just start there. The 2 players coming back as seniors specifically. What do you hope to see both from Ashton and Chloe here coming up this season?
First and foremost, leadership. They've done a great job here thus far in our first 8, 9, 10 practices, just getting everybody on the same page, understanding that, hey, every day we come to work and we try to get just a little bit better every single day. They've done a nice job of pushing everybody in any type of drill that we're doing, whether it's conditioning or just drills getting better. They've done a nice job thus far, and leadership. With how long the season goes from November all the way into February, that's something that we expect from them every single day. And thus far, they've done a really good job.
At the end of the day, when you take a look at year 2 of the co-op, what were some of the kinks or wrinkles that you had to worry about in year 1 as a head coach with a new co-op, maybe with some new players, going with each other in terms of, do they like the bounce pass? Do they like, something that gets overhead? Is it man defense or zone defense that they have to worry about? What goes into year 2 now, Hoots, that maybe you had to worry about in year 1, not as much here this season?
I think they're more comfortable with me as a coach now, and understanding what I expect of them. There's minor changes. Most coaches expect the same thing. You work hard and do your best every single day, and you're probably going to be a coach's best friend. And the girls that we have coming from there, they've done a nice job of working their butts off. And I can tell that they've put in work between, March and now, getting ready for the season. But the main things that, you worry about are transportation and what time do they need to leave in order for us to get to where we need to be. So we're leaving here at the right time, or vice versa, us going up north, and practice schedules and all that stuff. That is something that's way more of a headache than getting girls ready to play basketball. As long as they come ready to work every single day, we're going to be just fine.
If I take your team out to start with, Hoots, here in Region 1, who would be some teams that you're going to say, okay, once we get to February again, and once we get to that Region 1 tournament in about, 2.5, 3 months from now, who would be some teams that are going to be 1, 2, 3 that'll be competing for that regular season championship and trying to be that, top number 1 or 2 overall seed in the Region 1 tournament?
Sure. I think you got to start with Central Cass, Kindred, Northern Cass. I think if you had to pull every single coach in the region, they'd definitely be the 1, 2, 3. You could probably put them in any way you want, any order that you want. All 3 bring back a ton of experience, a ton of talent. Teams from the outside or people from the outside may say, Kindred lost, their 2 best players or possibly 2 of the best players in the entire state. So how good could they possibly be? Well, those people didn't pay attention to, 3 through 8 on their varsity, and as well as how good their JV was. They're going to be just fine. Another team probably finishing the season with close to 20 wins. Central Cass brings back a ton of talent. Their guard talent and their wings are just probably second to none in the entire region, and then, or maybe even the entire state. And then Northern Cass made that run in the tournament last year, beating Central Cass in the semis. And they bring back a ton of talent and girls that I think probably have had this season circled for a long time, building off of what they did in the volleyball season.
Let's take a look at your team now, Hoots. You're able to defeat Lisbon in a classic in the Region 1 tournament last year in the first round. And then you went up against the bullies on the block in the Kindred Vikings, as you mentioned, a D1 softball player, a D2 girls basketball player, and so forth on that roster. But ultimately, at the end of the day now, instead of 12, there's 11 teams here. So do you believe that your squad can vie for a top 5 seed and try to earn that bye into the quarterfinals, pending on how the season goes with injury, sickness, and everything, Hoots, in terms of what's your expectations here for the Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, every team says the same thing. You want to avoid the injury bug, sickness bug as well. But when we finished that game against Kindred, the spread was significant. We played okay. It was a tough situation, coming off of such a high that we had just a few days before playing Lisbon and getting that win in double overtime. But I told them in the locker room after the game that their expectation should be that we're playing in the first round, in the quarterfinals, not having to play a play-in. That's the goal that we wanted to set. In years past, it's, hey, we want to be playing in Tower City in this first round because we have such a unique home court advantage here in Tower that now I said we need to take the next step. We accomplished our first goal. Our first goal was getting into this home play-in game. Now the next step, we got to take the next step as a program, and that is hopefully playing for a bye in that first round.
Hoots, when you take a look at your program here, what are going to be some traits that you want to see from your team early on this season? I know the Barnes County tournament's not too far away, and you get a handful of non-region games alongside a sprinkle a couple of Region 1 contests in before Christmas in the first of the year. But ultimately, the first month of the season from a coach's point of view, what do you want to see from your team, win, lose, or draw, the first 30 days, so to speak, once you get into game action here?
Working hard every single day. We've put a lot of new stuff in this year, just trying to maximize the talents of the girls that we have around. I've been trying to drive a round peg or a square peg into a round hole, whatever the phrase is, for too many years, and trying to fit what I want to run with our personnel. And I'm hoping that what we've put in this year is a little more beneficial to every single girl on the floor. It's going to take some time. We're going to be a little disjointed early on, but the goal is not to be the best team in the region in November and December. The goal is to be playing as best we possibly can in January and February. And if we have to take some lumps early on, so be it. But as long as they are executing what I want them to execute as best they possibly can, taking care of the basketball and the full court is something that's always something that a coach wants to emphasize early on. Don't let a team dictate the entire game because we can't cross the half court line. So stuff like that, as long as we work hard and do the absolute best that we possibly can with the talent we have, I'll be pleased.
Nathan, Hoots girls basketball coach, final question for you here from a Maple River point of view. We mentioned some of the seniors, but who will be some other players that you're going to rely on here in terms of the starting 5 or girls that are going to get some minutes off the bench early on the season that have had some varsity experience? Because when I look at your roster, Hoots, I see a lot of girls that I remember saying at certain points of the season last year that have been there, done that, so to speak, whether it's been region or non-region games here last season in the first year of your co-op.
And we bring back 7 of the 9 girls that played in the rotation last year. I think there's going to be a couple that'll sneak their way into the rotation. I don't know how quickly that'll be, but we have excitement. I got 2 girls that are a 7th grader and an 8th grader in Violet Richmond and Carly Hovelson. Hovelson played quite a bit for us last year, but Violet's got a lot of talent. I'm excited for her, but bringing her along slowly and making sure that she's put in a position to succeed early on is going to be important for me, as well as the other 2 coaches I have on staff. But then, Iris Richmond and Kiana Leroux, they've been playing big time roles for us since they were 8th graders. I'm really excited to see, them continue to progress as ball handlers, as shooters, leaders in our system. And then Addison Hanig and Brielle Kaloran as sophomores. Once again, Addison's been playing since halfway through her 7th grade year. Brielle started contributing at the beginning of her 8th grade year. We got a lot of girls that, they're not juniors and seniors, but they've been playing for a long time. And we're hoping that we're no longer looked at as the young team that has potential, but the team that's actually living up to those expectations.
Nathan Hoots with us. Hoots, thanks so much for your time and best of luck here in the 2022-23 season.
Thanks, Chase.
We built Irie Insurance with one philosophy: hire great people and provide great service and options. We want to help protect your home, farm, crops, personal, and your businesses. Hello, this is Shane with Irie Insurance, and since day one, we have followed this golden rule to help protect you. That's why we have so many locations like West Fargo, Devils Lake, Hope, Hillsborough, Mackville, and Towner. To find out more about Irie Insurance, go to IrieInsurance.com. Irie Insurance is an equal opportunity employer and provider.
North Dakota, we aren't just a town, we're a community, one that you can be proud of, where you and your family can grow. With available jobs, affordable housing, a local golf course and pool, the Sportsman Club, and great educational opportunities, there hasn't been a better time to join the Hope community, ideally located between Fargo, Grand Forks, and Jamestown. For more information, go to www.hopend.com. Live, work, and play in Hope, North Dakota.
Buying a new home, but worried about the interest rate and terms from your bank? At First Class Mortgage, we'll find a mortgage that fits your needs. Shopping national banks and other lenders for the lowest rate and most affordable terms. Saving you time and money. So all you need to worry about is enjoying your new home. First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Put an expert to work for you. Call today.
Now we'll have some back-to-back Lisbon for you here on the Hillsborough EDC Coaches Show on YourLiveEvent.com. Joel Morgan had a chance to talk with Lisbon girls wrestling coach Jacob Revier, and Chase Miller spoke with Barb Sweet, the coach of the Lisbon girls basketball team.
It's now time to check in with the Lisbon Broncos girls basketball team. Joining us now is Barb Sweet here for Lisbon. And Barb, can you believe it? It's Thanksgiving, come and go. That means, a couple of weeks away here from the first of the year, which means girls basketball is in full session. You're going to get a handful of games in before we get to the 2023 portion of the schedule, Barb. But what do you like about this year's team coming in? I know when I look down, very youthful, a ton of juniors on the roster. But as a head coach, that must be fun sometimes too, because you can kind of mold those sophomores and juniors a little bit together early in the season.
Right. This is a really fun group of girls. They're athletic, they're fast. We're not very big, but they're feisty and gritty. And they're pretty excited to kind of make this team their own. With juniors, they don't really have a lot to lose because it's not their last season. That's so far away for them, in their head. But they're working hard. They're a lot of fun. They're a really fun group to have around.
I remember you talking about Kyra Heckrell a couple of years ago when you were a freshman, and you said if we can just continue to mold her a little bit every year. I think some folks saw on the volleyball court how the athleticism and what she brings, and maybe last year at particular times getting doubles, getting rebounds. How have you seen her continue to grow specifically here, talking about Kyra Heckrell here, Barb?
Well, Kyra had a very nice volleyball season. She put a lot of time in this summer, and she's gotten stronger, and her athleticism has improved because of that. She has had a very nice preseason. We're super excited. She's kind of developed an outside shot a little bit, developing some confidence and going to the basket hard. So I'm excited to see what that summer work will do for her on the basketball court.
As we continue to go over a couple of players here this season for the Lisbon Broncos, Kaya Sweet and Emerson Schultz, they've had varsity experience as well playing for you here, Barb. So what does that do with Kyra as well, but particularly with those two, bringing that varsity experience back to such a young team?
Well, those three spent a lot of time on the court last year, which will really help us, especially towards the end of the season when we had some players get injured. Some of our seniors from last year. So they have spent a lot of time on the court and know each other pretty well. Emerson can shoot from the outside, but this has grown. She's quite one of the tallest kids on our team now. So we're asking her to put some time on the inside, which is different for her. So, but being able to go to the outside and pull a big girl out and shoot, or go down and post up, depending on who's guarding her, that's beneficial to us, I think. Kaya Sweet put a lot of time in the off season working on ball handling and shooting. Not very big, but she's feisty, and she has to be because I won't let her be anything else. But her and Kyra, the kids always joke that they kind of have one brain. So they work very well together. So I'm excited to see the dynamic of those three. Kendra Differding has had a very nice offseason and has come into preseason way ahead of where we maybe anticipated. And we're super excited about that. She is a great defender and a dog on the rebounds. She just works so hard and fast. So she puts a nice little touch to us. And then Ella Tui is another kid that put a lot of time in this summer and is expected to do some big things for us as well. So we're super excited. We have 8 juniors, a couple of Parker Ursink will put in some time. She's got a super nice shot, and then some younger kids that'll round our team out. And we're just really excited about what we can do as the season progresses.
And you take a look at Region 1 here, Barb. If I take the Lisbon Broncos just out, so to speak, who would be a couple of teams at the very end in February that you think are going to vie for that, number 1, number 2 overall seed here in the region and try to be that regular season champ here this season in 2022-2023?
Well, I don't think it's any surprise who our top teams in our region and then in our state will be. Northern Cass, the volleyball champs. They've got athleticism and height, and they've got all the tools. Once they get into get out of volleyball shape and into basketball shape, they're going to be tough to contend with. And Central Cass, they've been right there and have all of their kids back, so they're going to be tough. Kindred has a very nice program. We can't ever count them out. So I think 1 and 2 are probably going to be, Central Cass, Northern Cass. And then after that, I think things will just shake out over the course of the season, see how teams improve, I guess.
And as you get into this time of the year, Barb, you get a smattering of non-conference games, non-region games. You sprinkle in a couple of Region 1 opponents as well. But ultimately, the first 3-4 weeks from a coaching point of view, you'd like to go 8-0 before you get to Christmas and everything. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Barb, win, lose, or draw, what do you want to see from your team here this season, the first month of the season as you get ready to kind of get into those dog days of the basketball season in January?
Well, we just want to keep improving. We keep telling the kids wins will be nice. Wins would be nice. But, we have so many, we just look so different than we have in the last few years. So we have a lot of things that we're putting in that are new. We're worried more about, fundamental things and just improving over the course of the next month, not necessarily the wins and losses. We keep telling them, if we can just keep improving and play our best basketball, just like every team wants to in February, that's what's important to us. They're going to make mistakes. They're youthful. It's a learning process, try to win and compete in the games that you think you're outmatched in. And with a youthful team, sometimes they surprise you. That, like I said, they don't have anything to lose. They don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, whatever. But at the same time, their youthfulness kind of appears sometimes. So you have to kind of squash those nerves and let them play with some wild abandon. So, we're just excited about the things that we can do over the course of the season.
Hey, Barb, thanks so much for your time and best of luck here in the 2022-23 season here for the Lisbon Broncos.
Thank you.
We're talking now with Jacob Revier, girls wrestling coach from Lisbon High School. First off, Coach, thanks for giving us some time here. I know you guys have been busy to start the season. How has that been going for you?
Pretty well so far. We got about 12 girls in the room this year, so some pretty good numbers here. Most of them are basically brand new, which is fine. I'm sure that's going to be how it is mostly across the board here. But yeah, good numbers so far. It's been a good first week and a half or so. The girls are very eager to learn and enjoying it so far. So it's been fun.
Yeah, last season, I think you guys sent 8 to the state tournament and you had over half of them place. Just talk about a little bit how you felt year 1 of this girls wrestling program went.
I thought it went pretty well. Like you said, yeah, we had 8 that were there at the end of the year, and 5 of those ended up placing last year, I'd say. So yeah, I thought first year for us went really well. Girls competed all year, and kind of the same thing as that I'm seeing this year. They were very eager to learn and really enjoyed the learning the new sport and something different for most of them. So yeah, it's very enjoyable, and it's kind of carrying over to this year as well. So
As a first-year coach for you last year, first year with the program, first-year girls wrestling being a sport, a sanctioned sport in North Dakota, they always say you don't know what you don't know. Some of those finer things, do you feel that you got them out of the way and maybe can focus more on putting together your practices, putting together your schedules, and getting ready for matches this year?
Yes and no. So I've been kind of involved in wrestling for quite a while and coaching at different levels. Ran kind of a youth program up in Fargo for a few years prior. So honestly, there's a lot of the same as that being brand new for most of the girls here. It was a lot of again, brand new, basic new stuff last year, and it's going to continue to be a little bit of the same this year. I think we have 12 of the 12. We only have 3 return or that were back from last year. So it's still pretty fresh. It'll be a lot of the same stuff. It'll be nice now that I know a lot of the other coaches, and that kind of stuff will be a lot easier and smoother moving forward here. But as far as the wrestling stuff goes, it's going to be a lot of the same, just learning the sport, learning the basics and hammering that down there. So
let's talk about who are the wrestlers that you are returning this year?
We returned 3. They are our lone senior this year, Gracia Rolfe. She took 5th last year. And then we got Emerson Schwab. She is a freshman. We got a lot of freshmen, actually. She took 6th last year at 115. And then we have Lila Gillespie. She placed 8th last year at 130. So 2 freshmen. And then the 1 senior. And really as a whole, we are young this year. Like I said, Gracia is our only senior. We have 1 sophomore and the rest are freshmen and below, which it looks like that's kind of the trend throughout the state looking at track wrestling here. There are a lot of 7th, 8th, 9th graders. So I think we're going to just continue to see the sport grow over the next few years, which is obviously fantastic.
Yeah, despite only having 3 returning, you guys still have a little bit of a bigger roster than last year. How much recruiting the hallways did you have to do, or how much did your wrestlers that you had returning get some other girls to come out for the team?
A lot of both, that is for sure. I was definitely very on the girls, especially the ones that weren't in the winter sport. Our only other option here is basketball. So if a girl that I knew wasn't in basketball, I'd highly encourage them to come give it a whirl. And some of those came, and then we had a good, I think we had got 8 total freshmen. So Lila and a couple of the other new ones did a really good job of recruiting their friends and classmates to give us that big class of 8 freshmen that we have right now. So the girls did a great job of getting their friends to come out and come give it a whirl. Like I said, so far they've all seemed to enjoy it quite thoroughly. So it's looking pretty good for us.
Obviously, Lisbon has the wrestling history that they have. The boys program is still one of the top in the state right now. The girls, everything is so new. We have 1 official state champion that was Central Cass last year. But how much do these girls see themselves as on the forefront of making a name for Lisbon girls wrestling and just wrestling in the state as a whole?
I think there's some of them kind of have those thoughts and know about it. The new ones probably haven't quite had the time to even think about it. I know last year we talked a lot about making history, kind of building that foundation, being the first set of girls, and all those girls that were there last year were very into it and thought it was important to build that history and build that program. And we're getting there with this year's group, but we're still really trying to learn the sport before we get too far ahead of ourselves here. But yeah, the youth is the nice. We've mentioned a few times that, hey, we have 4, 5, 6 years together as a group here. So we don't need to learn everything today. We're going to take our time and get things done right. And again, we have several years. So they see it to some degree. And throughout the year here, I think that'll develop more. They'll realize how cool and how really historic this is for them to be involved. Even in year 2, it's still basically brand new sport and growing, and hopefully continues to get bigger and bigger.
As the schedule develops for you guys, obviously you're joining a lot of duels with the boys side of the program where they're bringing their girls wrestlers. You guys are fortunate enough to be able to do that. And then some tournaments that are starting to be created on the girls side of wrestling. But as we look at the schedule, we're starting to see programs having their own nights for girls wrestling. How much does that help in terms of their development and maybe getting those moments to be a little bit separate for their own competition?
I think that's the next best or next kind of thing for us as a state here, as we get more and more numbers to separating it. It's great that we have the opportunity to really piggyback off the boys here for those first couple of years to get started. But I think having it completely standalone is going to really help continue to grow the sport. I know I've heard girls from both our team and other teams kind of mention and stuff that they like it a lot better when it's just girls and they don't have to worry about the boys being there or around, or that they can just be just girls. They seem to enjoy that more. So I think that's the next thing that we need to be looking for. And I think we're, again, like you said, doing a good job of getting that groundwork laid and started so that we are able to do it completely on our own. Obviously, logistically right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for everyone to do it yet, but I think we're on the right track there, and that'll hopefully in the next handful of years will be basically entirely on our own. Would be the way hopefully it goes.
As you move through the season, especially having a team with some freshmen, some younger girls, some inexperience, at what point of the season do you start kind of setting benchmarks for progress and maybe start developing some of the goals that you want to finish the year? Because I mean, obviously it's easy to say you want to finish on top, but you got to kind of get to those steps. When do you start implementing that into your season?
Kind of a little early and a little late. Really, it depends more so, I guess, on the individual. So obviously our returners, we can talk a little bit more about that. But everyone that's brand new, especially if they didn't have any elementary experience or anything like that, we got to figure out how does our headgear go on? How do we tie our shoes? What's the stance and that kind of stuff first. So it'll progress throughout the year as we hit more tournaments and get more matches. We'll be able to understand and see where we're standing and what is realistic for us. Obviously, as anyone, they're training to be a state champion, right? But that not everyone can do that. So we'll see where we're at and make some realistic goals and plans moving forward from there as we get just more competition under our belts here.
We've been talking to Jacob Revier, head coach of Lisbon Girls Wrestling. Coach, thanks for joining us here. Good luck throughout the season. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
That'll wrap things up for this edition of the Hillsborough EDC Coaches Show on YourLiveEvent.com. We'll be talking some more boys high school basketball next week as the seasons really get going. Bryce Laxdal, the coach of the Northern Cass Boys, will be joining us. We'll hear from several more area coaches. And we're getting into December. That's when our next Hillsborough EDC Coaches Show will be airing. So get your Christmas shopping done when you can, and make sure you check out everything here on YourLiveEvent.com as well as supporting your favorite teams. I'm Joe Lanzola. We'll talk to you next Wednesday here on YourLiveEvent.com.